I want to tell you that there's a whole bunch of news stories going on right now, but one of them, which, is not like a big national headline. We can get to the national headlines, but this one really just caught my eye this morning, and I have to bring it to your attention in case you hadn't heard. It's New York. It's not Connecticut. It's New York, but we're close enough. And New York has new summer camp regulations in which they have created a risky list of activities to promote safety at summer camps. You know what's on the risky list? Wiffle ball is on the risky list. So is dodgeball, Red Rover, activities like steal the bacon and capture the flag. They've actually been deemed dangerous by New York State as part of an effort to tighten regulations for summer camps in the area. Any indoor or outdoor recreational program that offers two or more of these organized activities, including one that falls perhaps on the risky list, which now we have added to wiffle ball, etc. on that, will be considered a summer camp under the new rules and subject to associated regulations and, of course, fees. The rules, quote, aim to curtail a loophole in previously passed regulations that count activities like horseback riding and archery among the risky list, but don't include many activities like freeze tag and kickball. Oh no, because they're featured in indoor programs. This is what I find this to be. Okay. Number one, I have so many takes on this, but first of all, there's the obvious, which is there's no common sense. Whoever wrote this has no common sense. Whoever wrote this regulation, whoever read or passed this regulation, which I guess might be some group in Albany, not only do they have no common sense, which is so obvious and which will lead to the death of America without question, but there's two things about this which are really upsetting to me. One is the idea of these risky activities, even archery and even horseback riding. These are activities which, yes, there is a little bit of danger and a little bit of risk, but so is life, have a little bit of danger and a little bit of risk. And we need to raise our children, and we need to think of ourselves as a sturdy, resilient people who will get up after a fall, who will put some Neosporin and a Band-Aid on a scratch, who will allow ourselves to have a skin knee, who will be able to emerge from whatever it is that we have fallen into. Yes, there's once in a while a catastrophic accident, like God forbid what happened to Christopher Reeve. Does that mean nobody should ever get on a horse again? He would be the last person to have said that. The last person to have said that. Because part of enjoying life is taking a physical risk now and then, is getting on a bicycle and going a little too fast downhill, is getting on a sled, is taking a canter when you've just done a trot. This is part of life. This is what we want our kids to feel good about and confident about. That, oh my God, it was scary and my heart beat a little bit and my stomach had butterflies and flips, but I did it. I got through it and I was okay. Years ago, there was a movie. Do you remember this movie with Richard Harris? It was called A Man Called Horse. And I only remember it because I had to watch it, I think, in 7th or 8th grade. And it was about the trials of Indian tribes. In order to be made a member of an Indian tribe, you had all these physical trials that a young man had to go through, and they were very painful. I mean, I would say in today's world they would maybe even be deemed torture, but they were designed so that you would walk through fire. And when you got on the other side of fire, assuming that you had survived, and most people did, and you were a member of that tribe, you had been etched. You had been tested. You had been somehow, your soul, your character, your survival instincts had been tried and found to be acceptable. And it occurs to me, we watch all these reality shows now, Fear Factor, Survival. I don't watch them, but a lot of people watch them. And what they show is extremes of behavior. Because people today live vicariously through TV in a way they never have before. And one of the ways in which they live so vicariously through TV is by watching other people take risks that they themselves would not take. So there are extreme sports, there's your Amazing Race, there is your survival, there are all kind of things that are aiming to test people so that the rest of us couch potatoes can look at a TV screen, I guess, and somehow voyeuristically enjoy what's going on out there that we don't do. But if we lived in a world in which everybody partook a little bit of some physical risk, then maybe we wouldn't be as interested in watching those that took these extreme ones, or maybe we would have a completely different view of what my father would call mishiganas, who do take these extreme risks. And by mishiganas, he means crazy people. What goes through my mind very often when I watch these reality shows is I think, mishigana, 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 because I'm thinking a normal, sane person doesn't need to take these extreme physical risks to find any kind of a rush or to be happy or to win $1 million. And coming back to the wiffle ball, what is the message to our children? The message to our children is these are dangerous behaviors. Well, if freeze tag and wiffle ball are dangerous, what isn't dangerous? What isn't dangerous? Sitting on a television set, right? So, I mean, sitting on a couch watching TV, taking your thumbs and playing with a computer program, doing Wii in a basement someplace where you have no sunshine, where you have no air, where you have no real competition except that on the screen, where you don't have to engage with anybody else in strategy. Okay, it's safe, but it's boring and it's not real life. Real life has competition. Real life has strategy. Real life has an edge. Real life has grief. Real life has loss. Real life has death. Real life has accident. What kind of a generation are we going to be raising if we tell them that freeze tag and wiffle ball are dangerous? It's insane. So that's my second point. So first you have the death of common sense. Then you have what is the message to the children. And my third take on this story, which is why I want so much for you to be thinking about how wrong-headed this is, how wrong-headed this policy is. I'm coming at it now from a lawyer, from a different point of view. And I know that a lot of this is about trying to negate liability and trying to make sure that we assume the risk and we shift the risk and blah, 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 blah. But all of that aside, that's not what I mean by my lawyer head. One of the most important principles in a democracy is that we respect our laws. And to the extent that we have silly or stupid laws on the books, it engenders a disrespect of the law, which is dangerous for us as a society. Because once we start to recognize and realize that there are too many regulations on the books that are hopelessly unenforceable and simply ridiculous, the trend will come. We will start to lump in our mind other laws. And there will be engendered, and there already is engendered in general, a greater disrespect for the law. When you have a book of legal statutes on a shelf that numbers 2, which is when it was when lawyers started practicing in Connecticut maybe 60 years ago, you have respect for what's in those 2 volumes of laws because there are enough for you to be able to read, understand, and digest them. When you have a volume of laws that number 2 full shelves or 24 volumes, do you really think it's possible to enforce these laws? To enforce the laws, people have to know the laws. Is there any way for a human being, much less a lawyer, to know what's in 24 volumes of the Connecticut General Statutes? That's just Connecticut. I don't even want to get into the IRS tax code. And the old saying that ignorance is no excuse for not doing the law is still pretty much true. But it becomes a very unfortunate consequence in a democracy when we have people that are passing laws that are silly, that are inconsequential, that are damaging, that are trivial, that are stupid, that nobody would want to enforce. So here's why I think the wiffle ball rule is really bad. Just to sum it up again. Number 1, itself, it defies common sense. Freeze tag and wiffle ball are not dangerous, and therefore they should not be deemed dangerous. It's just el dumbo. Number 2, by having a law like that, you engender disrespect for other laws. Bad precedent to set. Very poor idea to do in a Republican and Democratic society. And number 3, the message to the children, as and when these laws are enforced, and the message to the counselors and to the adults is that this behavior is dangerous, when it could not be less so. When what we have to do is have a couple of exercises that are risk-taking, that people feel, whoo, I got through that. Whoo, I went on that roller coaster. It was dangerous, but I did it. Oh my goodness, I tested a horse for the first time, and it was dangerous, but I got through it. That's what builds true self-confidence. That's what builds true character. So that's what's on my mind today. You're listening to the Lisa Wexler Show, because I've had it. And I mean this. I've just had it with legislatures and bureaucrats that write these inanities and these idiot laws, and they expect the rest of us to follow them. This is what I mean by engendering disrespect for all of the law.